Hello and welcome to Unity Voices podcast. And today I have an amazing guest, Lesia Mandzevych, who is the creator and the host of Ukrainian podcast about Ukrainian women and their thoughts, Nochi Divochi. Hello, Lesia, and welcome to Unity Voices podcast.
Thank you, my fellow podcaster. Thank you, Olha, for the invitation. It's a great honor and pleasure to be among your guests.
Thank you. And you always start your episodes asking your guests, how are you? So it's my turn to ask you, how are you?
I've been asking this question for 3 podcast seasons already. And actually, despite the fact that this question sounds quite simple, the answer to it is not, because people choose like different ways to answer this question. One of the most common answers is I'm fine, and we could see that response like this year at the Burning Man festival as Ukrainian installation, and this is actually one of the most common answers. But today I choose to say that it's hard, because as we are recording this podcast on the day of Ukrainian defenders, and so many people, so many defenders have given their lives for Ukraine, and so many civilians have died because of this bloody war initiated by Russia. I would say that almost every day, more or less, is a struggle for every Ukrainian, and that's why it's tough. So, I'm tough, but I'm holding on to this world. Of course, there are, yes, as we all do. Of course, there are that it's not only like death. We always try, to look on the bright side of life, and there are days like these. But today is one of the harder days, I would say so.
Yes, the meaning I'm fine for every Ukrainian has very unique and specific definitions. Behind this I'm fine, there is all these struggles, pain of ongoing war. And for me personally, it's, when people say I'm okay, but I would say I'm not okay and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all have the impact of ongoing war, and I don't know, to pretend that everything is okay and that we are okay doesn't seem honest.
Well, I think that right now that we have been facing this for 3 years now, almost 3 years now, this ongoing war, it's very hard for some people to admit that they are not fine, because, we were raised in such a, I don't know, mood, tradition, that we were supposed to be, well, in my family at least, I was supposed to be nice to everybody. I was supposed to be, very well brought up, and not to cause any like problems to anybody and stuff like that. But that means that you're becoming very utilitarian. You don't have your own boundaries. You're supposed to be comfortable to everybody, and that's why it contradicts to the feeling and to the right to express that you're not fine. And all of us, sometimes we might not be fine, but we bury down this emotion so deep inside that later we die from the heart attack at the age of 45. You know what I mean? This is not a laughing matter, but still, with this ongoing violence, and, it started I think it started even earlier in 2014, when Maidan happened, and then the war happened, and then COVID happened. And I think more and more of people of my age, and they started thinking about what if feeling not okay, to not like to justify, but to normalize the feeling of not being okay. And it's great that we can at least talk about it right now.
I think it's very important to talk about it, and I think it's vital to process all ongoing emotions because, as you said, dying from heart attack, and also I know cancer happens, and it's all unseen battles and unseen consequences of this war and of the stress it gives to Ukrainian people in Ukraine and beyond Ukraine, because I think in living in different societies and in different mental expectations, it's really challenging to process all your emotions or to talk about things out loud. Not everyone has a psychologist, like not everyone has professional help, but I think each and every Ukrainian desperately need it, from early ages like children to elderly people. And we have been discussing before that it's not enough of professional mental health support for Ukrainian, and it's not enough specialists. So I think it's the matter of changing how we live, how we study, how we work, how we create this space to actually process our emotions and to talk about it and let ourselves to feel it.
Yep, totally agree.
And Nochi Divochi, I think it's been already 5 years since you started this project. So can you share this ongoing journey and what it's all about and what is the mission of this project?
Um, Actually, thank you for this question. Actually, Nochi Divochi project, it started in 2016, as far as I remember. Back in the days, it was a live program on online radio Skovoroda. And the format was very close to what we have now. Though I was inviting different women to talk about what's going on in their lives. I don't think, well, when I started it, I don't think that I had any particular mission. I mean, I'm just quite communicative person. And a friend of mine, one of the founders of Radio Skovoroda, he was pushing me hard. You should have a program. You should have a program on our radio. And I was like, okay, maybe I should. And like a week before the presentation, he came up to me and said, give me the name of this program you're gonna run. So then I came up with this name, Nochi Divochi, which could be translated into English like something like a girls' night out. And I decided, what's the easiest thing to do? I think talk to somebody. That means I'm gonna run interviews. And so that's how it all came together. It would be an interview with women, and the name of it would be Nochi Divochi. But later on, I realized that, being an interviewer, it's not a piece of cake, because the people that are sitting in front of you, they could be different. Some of them are very private. Some of them are very talkative, and you have to balance out all of these things. And also there is my agenda, right? And there are also some things that I would like to ask. And so the interview is kind of a balancing act of what the guest has to offer and what you have in mind. And it's a mix of intimacy and openness. And the more I do this thing, the more I learn, and I'm actually very happy about it. If to go back to the starting point, so I've been running this show I was running this show for 3 seasons. Then I had a break for I guess, like 5 years. There was a 5-year break. And when the war broke out in 2022, I figured that, women have always been the most endangered part of the population in at war. Because, and the crimes of Bucha, all the other Russian war crimes, they are just unnecessary, but very like important evidence and obvious evidence that this thing is happening. And that's why I decided, and actually that was the moment when my podcast gained this actually valuable mission, because it was the the way, and this conversation was one of the options I was giving for women just to vent sometimes, because you're living in these conditions. You have the war at your home country. You see all this violence around you, and you're surrounded by uncertainties, and you don't know what to do with your life. Am I important? What can I do? How can I be helpful? And all these questions, they keep on arising within ourselves. And maybe to talk to somebody about this or about anything else helps you kind of sort of things out in your head. So, in some way, I don't mean to sound, like pretentious or anything like that, but it's also some kind of therapy. I think that the talking to people about your views and your life, and it's gonna be therapeutical. That's how you
So
say
from
it.
interviewer, at some point you became kind of psychologist, where your
Uh-huh.
guests could say it out loud and share
I wouldn't
their
say
experience.
I wouldn't say that exactly. I'm not trying to be one. I don't have a proper education. Well, myself, I've been in therapy I was in therapy for 6 years, so I have some skills, but some skills as a, talker, not about the therapist herself. Um, but I think it also, and going back to the mission thing. So, and the second thing that I thought, that when the war has started, Ukraine started opening up to the world, because we needed, and we still need to explain ourselves to the world. Why do you need to help us? Like, at the same time, and we saw, as we started opening up, we kind of faced the fact that, not everybody, well, a lot of people, the majority of people in the world, they don't know a thing about Ukraine. And we ourselves, as Ukrainians, we don't know that much about ourselves either. And all these women that I'm talking to, that I, invite to my podcast, they are doing different things. There are politicians, journalists, artists, women who serve as paramedics in the armed forces, and all different girls are coming to talk to me, and they are creating and doing so many important things, but we ourselves don't know their names. And it's important, in order to overcome this, I don't know, the imposter syndrome that a lot of Ukrainians suffer from. So we may do like wonderful things, but when you ask, do you take credit for it? You're like, I don't know. Well, it just happened. we are not used to. I think this is this is also a fact that we were raised in a totalitarian state where we were not used to develop personalities. You were supposed to be like everybody else, and that's why you don't take credit and you don't take responsibility for things. But I think now, as we are opening up to the world, and we need to put ourselves on the map, we need to take credits for the things that we are doing, and we need to take the credit for our achievements as well. And that's how we, kind of fight this this imposter syndrome. I don't know, maybe there is
Yes,
an
I agree
other
that we have to embrace it. We
definition.
have to learn how to embrace it and definitely not take it for granted. And it's important actually to appreciate what has been done and know the value of it, like to appreciate the value of it. I mean, like contribution of each and everyone to our common victory of Ukraine and peace in the world, because this is what Ukrainian nation is doing currently. It's not just war in Ukraine; it's Ukraine protecting democracy and peace in the rest of the world. I would say maybe it sounds very sounds too much, but
Mm-hmm.
for me it is what it is. And you were mentioning about your guest. Could you share who touched your heart deeply? Who was the most impressive, and um, who like you had this very deep connection during your conversation?
Uh, this is not an easy question to
I know.
answer because, well, this is like you're asking me, like you would ask a mother who is your favorite child.
I'm not asking favorite. I'm actually asking about impact. Like during ongoing war,
Uh,
um, conversation you had with your guests has an impact. I'm
well,
not asking to tell you who
but
you love more or who
it's
would you choose.
something like that. But
No.
nonetheless,
It's more in terms of um, impression, impact, and
mm,
someone you would not emphasize, but would like to share their message now.
mhm, mhm. Um, there actually, well, each and every episode is dear to my heart, and I try to, and every episode has its own like peculiar moments of, closeness for me. But if to like pick the ones that are my not like favorite, but from the viewpoint of impact, as you were mentioning. I think that in the first season, there is an interview, by the way, with the worst quality of recording, but I have an explanation to it and an excuse with Yarina Chernoguz. She's a Ukrainian poet. Recently, she became a winner of Shevchenko Prize, and she serves in the armed forces of Ukraine. And why this recording is that bad? Because she was on the front line, and I was sitting in Kyiv during the air raid alarm, and that's why the connection was very poor. I mean, like technical wise, but the conversation was still very deep because she was answering to my question, what is she afraid of? And is she afraid to be in captivity? And what is dignity to her, and why she decided to, go and fight on the front line when she had a toddler daughter waiting for her at home. And these are not the easiest questions to be answered by a woman, by mother, and all the different roles that we as women play on everyday basis. And second season, there was a very nice and deep conversation with Alexandra Matvichuk. Her organization became Nobel Peace Prize winners for Ukraine 2 years ago. And yeah, we spoke about war crimes and dignity and all these things. And in the latest season, one of the most impactful conversation is with Alisa Kovalenko, Ukrainian film director. She used to fight on the front lines as well, and she speaks a little bit. You can, once you listen, you will understand. But she speaks about her experience of captivity. She was a hostage back in 2015-16, I guess, and how she managed to survive all of this. And well, as you see, all of these conversations are tough, and they're pretty loaded up with but there is no, what I love about them, that there is no sign of despair in any of them. I mean, these women, they are, putting up a great fight for Ukraine on everyday basis. And they had a lot of moments of, just moments that I think that are scary for most of us, but still they manage, and it's very inspiring. And they still keep, their sights focused on future. They are fighters, and this is the most inspiring thing.
I'm speechless. I'm very touched and emotional. Thank you for sharing that, because I know all these women and I know their experience, and it's really heartbreaking but empowering and encouraging at the same time. So thank you for
100%.
sharing it.
And speaking about the mission of my podcast, as I speak to all of these women, I understand this is some kind of motivation for myself as well, because as I see them, I don't have any, that doesn't give me, it's not like a choice, but this motivates me not to give up as well, because, they are fighting, and I have to do my thing too, because, you might remember that during the Revolution of Dignity in 2014, we had this metaphor that we are like drops in the ocean. Maybe we are small, but still, when we come together, we form a massive power, and that has the ability to change things. And so this is important. This is very, like, actual even till now.
Yes, it started back in 2014 during Dignity Revolution, and now I believe that every Ukrainian is a small little drop in this big ocean that we are going through all these challenges, but at the same time encouraging and empowering the rest of the world by our actions, by our strength, our beliefs, and our will to freedom.
And this is a great thing, actually, thinking about your podcast, the Voices of Unity Voices. I think that, you see, sometimes here in Ukraine, we might catch this misperception as we know everything, and we are being in this bubble that we are at war, and all of these things are happening. We have this misperception that everybody sees us the same as we do. You know my problems, I know your problems, and that means everybody else in the world knows our problems. But it's not like it. There are 8 billion people in this world. And, I am pretty sure that 50% of them, they don't even know where Ukraine is. I mean, now at least like half of them do know, and we have to embrace this. Yeah, some of them do, and we have to embrace this chance, and we have to jump onto this opportunity, and to, explain ourselves as much as we can in order to people to understand, at least have an idea what we are going through, because the words that we are fighting for all the world, and we are fighting for the democracy, they are true. But they're, sometimes for some people, they might be just too loud in order for them to build a connection. It's just all of the talking. But, I live, for example, somebody might live in Portugal, and this is like a world away from there. And you have to explain for some people, I don't know, in Brazil or Panama, why do I have to support Ukraine? this is so far away. But, as we try to tell our personal stories, that is when the connection happens. And the personal stories, not only of loss and struggle, but personal stories of success, they are the most inspiring, and they are the ones that are building connections. That's why I try to, in my podcast, I try to focus on the impact and focus on the outcome and focus on the, it's not a starry-eyed optimism that everything's okay, we're gonna win, let's do it. No, there are a lot of hardships on an everyday basis that we are trying to fight. The air raid sirens, our bad mood, the weather, the blackouts, the threat and the anxiety
missiles,
yes,
drones.
So it's all of the when we are speaking about the pyramid of the human needs. So these are like basic needs, even the basic needs of the security and safety, they are not covered. And what to say about the self-expression, the higher levels of self-expression. But still, we are trying to do that. And I think that is, but by these drops in the oceans, like Nochi Divochi, like Unity Voices, we can tell our personal stories, and maybe some people will get to connect and understand that, they are the same as we are, and that's why it would be great to help them.
I think it's also important to emphasize and brought this outside, not just for the world to understand Ukraine and Ukrainians better, but sometimes for Ukrainians as well to understand Ukraine and Ukrainians better, because unfortunately not many people know the history
and that's
of Ukraine.
Why my podcast is in Ukrainian and your podcast is in English.
Yeah, it's like unity combination. Yes. To spread the awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And what about I ask this question every guest about your personal experience of February 24th, 2022. Where were you and how was it for you?
Well, on February 24th is my brother's birthday. That's why it's like always a special day for me. And on February 2020, on the 24th February of 2022, I was in Thailand, actually. I was in a good place, as you may say it, as you may describe it. Actually, well, I went there for a vacation. I considered this to be a sabbatical. I wanted to have some rest. Well, I didn't actually believe that the war is going to happen, that the full-scale invasion was going to happen. Because, for me, and this now I understand that this was very misleading thinking, that after the Second World War, like the humanity, they have agreed upon the fact that human life is the ultimate value, and the war is not an answer. And well, that's why I couldn't believe that actually when the war had started, I was shocked. And because of the time difference, it was like, in Ukraine, it was 5 a.m. and in Thailand, it was something like 11 a.m., like 12. And I woke up and I wanted to congratulate my brother on his birthday. And I saw that the war has started. And I cannot actually remember that day at all. I cannot remember. I was in such a stage of shock that that right now I cannot recall what was I thinking about. I think I was just blank. I couldn't even speak that much. And later, I spent in Thailand this whole month that I was supposed to be there. And then I came back to Warsaw. And then I spent 2 more months in Warsaw. just trying to figure out how can I be helpful. And that's when the idea of Nochi Divochi has, found its resurrection and found its purpose again for the second time. And then I came back to Ukraine. My parents, I was born and raised in the city of Lviv. It's situated not that far away from the Polish border. And that's why it was easier for me to come back to Ukraine. And I came in here for the Easter holidays. And I saw the situation. And that's when I faced the fact that, being Ukrainian abroad, being Ukrainian, being a person who flees is also, kind of torturing, because as you read the news about the air raids and bombings and all of these things happening in Ukraine, you imagine disastrous pictures. And somehow staying in Ukraine and experience all this in person, for some people is easier, because then you have this illusion of control that you're in it, therefore you control it. And when the people, the refugees, they cannot do this, and they just like imagine, and all their imagination does all of the toxic work, and you like imagine the apocalypse, which is actually going on, but you cannot control it, and therefore this anxiety even grows even more. That means that being Ukrainian is not easy anywhere, even
In
when you live
Ukraine
in
or
London.
beyond.
Doesn't matter, you live in Kyiv in Ukraine, or you live in London, or somebody lives in Toronto, or I don't know. But it's hard. It's hard being Ukrainian everywhere. But we manage. We
Yes, we
manage.
manage. We keep standing. We keep moving forward. We keep
Mm-hmm.
encouraging each other. And do you have any quote that could encourage or empower you, and maybe it can help someone else?
I don't know. There are a lot of sentences roaming around my head right now, but I think that the two that are kind of humbling for me, but also inspiring. One of this is the biblical phrase, "This too shall pass." I mean,
All good
and
and bad.
all good and bad, but this too shall pass. And the second one is the one that I've heard from Ukrainian former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Pavlo Klimkin. He said that you have to keep on, fighting, because the things that might seem impossible today might become real tomorrow, because the
Become
situation
possible, yeah.
the situation changes so rapidly, and we don't have a right, we don't have another option, we don't have a choice. This is not our choice to give up. And by standing up to Russian aggression for almost 3 years now, I think that we've proven that we stand by this. Okay. And we have to do that because, you see, even with a support from our allies, the F-16s at the beginning of the war, getting
What seems
F-16
impossible at the
seemed
beginning
impossible at the beginning.
became
But
possible.
now, okay, 2.5 years on, we do have them. Of course, we would like to have them faster. That way, not that many people would have died, and we could have prevented the losses. But still, things change, and we have to keep on fighting for what we firmly believe in. So yeah.
And I know you love books. You have a lot of books. You read a lot. What would you recommend to read
Yeah,
to
I'm a
understand Ukraine
bookworm.
and Ukrainians better?
I am a bookworm. And actually, I started thinking about what books could be the best ones to, explain Ukraine and to represent them to outer world. Well, the first book that comes to mind is a book on Ukrainian history written by Serhiy Plokhy. He's a Ukrainian historian, the head of Harvard Ukrainian Research Institute. So, and this book was written originally in English. So I think that you can find it in a lot of bookstores abroad in US and the UK, I guess, as well. This is like very very complex and the history of Ukraine that explains why this territory that now is Ukraine appeared to be, and all of the and it's throughout history from the antique times until now. And it explains what I like about it. It explains Ukraine in a global context. And that's why, for the people from the other countries would be easier to understand what Ukraine is about. Also, speaking about the foreign authors, this is Timothy Snyder, the Yale professor of history, and his book, The Bloodlands. It explores, Professor Snyder explores the history of the lands between Germany and Russia during the mid-interwar period of the 20th century and the Second World War especially. And it also gives a lot of understanding why Ukrainians are like they are, because we underwent a lot of terrors, the famine, and Applebaum, also the renowned author. She has a book on Red Famine. You see, these are not the easiest stories, but they are.
But they do help understand Ukraine,
yes,
not just for non-Ukrainians, but I think it's important for Ukrainians as well to read these books to understand their own history.
We're catching up on our reading. And one of the latest books explaining this war is a book by Alexander Behed, The Language of War. It has been translated into English and recently published, I guess, by Penguin Books in the UK. And he explains the full-scale invasion. And I think that all of these books, they might create, the picture of what we went through and still are going through.
At least it will help to understand
yes.
Ukrainian history, Ukraine, and Ukrainian people. So thank you for sharing it. And another question I ask all my guests, what is your superpower?
I don't have the answer to it. I'm not even sure that I do have a superpower. I think
we all do, but maybe you just have
I need to reveal it somehow, right? I think that my superpower is just I don't know. I wouldn't want to use the word resilient, because we kind of, resilience is our superpower, and we kind of overused it a little bit, maybe. But yeah, maybe it is resilience, actually, because no matter what I am going through, I still try to make the most of the day I'm in and trying to, help, to be helpful as much as I can, donate, talk to people, still try to achieve some sort of excellence in my daily job, because I do have one of these two. And
when you said that, I remember you wrote a post the day when Ahmadiyat was missiled, and you live very close, like 15 minutes walk from that
Yeah,
area.
that was one of
And
the scariest days of my life. Yeah,
but
that's
when you
true.
wrote about it, it's actually in that post there was your resilience,
Yeah,
you know.
and my optimism. Well, it's not
Can you share it in English, what you like, your thoughts about it?
the thoughts about it. Well, the fact is that I do live really close to Ahmadiyat, and actually after this attack ended and I had to go to work, I usually use metro, and that day I did too. And as I walked past by the Ahmadiyat and metro station that was shelled too, I just became numb, because you can see all of these buildings destroyed and people trying to swipe up and tidy up all of this mess. And but I couldn't say anything. That's why for the rest of the day I remained numb. And on a second day I went to work, and I went to the metro as I always do. And what I saw, it just gave me the firm belief that, no matter what, life keeps going on, because people have tidied up their shops, and some of them were open, and the coffee shops, they, were brewing the hot filtered coffee for everybody else. And uh, people and women were selling flowers and apples and all these things. And that's when I saw that's when I figured that, the life goes on no matter what. Of course, we lose a lot of people in this fighting, and a lot of people are dead, but a lot of people are alive, and we are alive. I am alive. And as long as I'm alive, I choose. It's not that I have to. It's not like somebody's forcing me to, but this is my choice to live and to be helpful and try to change this situation in any way I can. If my speaking to you today, if our conversation might somehow help, good, fine by me. My donation will save somebody's life, great. I will inspire, my podcast will inspire some girl to, drop her fear and start her own business, great. Well, anything I can do that might be somehow helpful, this is what I'm up for.
Thank you so
That's it.
much, Lesia, for joining Unity Voices podcast today and sharing your experience with Nochi Divochi and your personal experience of ongoing war in Ukraine, and encouraging and empowering by your resilience, because I believe it is your superpower. And this is Unity Voices podcast, and I believe that unity is our superpower. Please subscribe us on our social media and stay tuned for next episode.
Thank
Bye.
you.